Tēnā koe, ho ngā mihi o te wā o Mātariki kei a koe I tū. Rawi kiti ki a koe anō. Kia ora koutou, my name's Huia Hanlen. I'm the CE of Brainwave Trust Aotearoa, and with me this morning is Dude, Te Pareraukawa Tuisamoa, who I knew many years ago, but recently we've reconnected through our mahi, which has been really neat. Ehua, I thought I'd ask you if you could introduce yourself and tell us, as part of your little introduction, who you work for and what is the purpose of that organisation.
Kia ora, nā mihi e hoa. Tēnā koe, tēnā koutou. Kaihautū Tuisamoa, or actually recently, Te Pareraukawa Tuisamoa hau. He uria hau no nā te maniapoto, me nā te raukawa, me nā te ruanui. He kaiwhakahaere hau o Lifewise Family Services. I've been with the organisation about 4 years in 2 different roles. And so I've recently, as of last week, moved into a new role, supervising a team of kaimahi who do some intensive mahi with our most vulnerable whānau. Kia ora.
Kia ora. So can you describe who are the whānau that Lifewise works with? You mentioned that there's some of the most vulnerable. Some people will or won't know what Lifewise is.
Kia ora. So we have 3 different programs. So the main one, where we have utilised the resources of Brainwave Trust, has been for our Tōku Whānau program. So that's a 12-week course for wahine who have lived with family violence. And the purpose of our being with them is, I guess, rebuilding their confidence, their identity as wahine, but predominantly it's about ensuring the safety of tamariki. So that's a contract with Oranga Tamariki. So we're in there to actually prevent children being uplifted and removed from whānau. So we're 12 weeks of doing all kinds of course material, building resilience, I guess, in that space. The other program is Mana Whānau, which is an Oranga Tamariki contract, working with whānau, again, who are close to or on the verge of children being put into care. So that program, we are wanting to either help whānau to have their children returned to them or to prevent whānau being uplifted. Issues that we are finding with those whānau, a lot of addictions, a lot of mental health issues, violence. So there's a lot of unwellness, I guess, in that space. The other one that we utilize, that we have here, is our parenting toolbox. Well, we used to have a toolbox program. However, the government recently cut that program. So we only now have what we call parenting through separation, and that is just creating a space for whānau. So as they're separating, that we acknowledge, yes, separation sadly happens, but again, we're all about the safety of children in that space, so that they consider tamariki in the space, what they're hearing, what they feel, especially when things can become particularly, I guess, negative space for children. As we know, we've seen the end results of children kind of blaming themselves for parents breaking up, and so different levels of vulnerabilities of unsafe, I guess, parenting, where we want to be in that space to rebuild that re-strengthen our whānau.
Ai. He mahi whakahirahira e hoa, he mahi nunui kia koe o tira, kia koutou tō tima. It's such important work,
Kia
hey,
ora.
and we're honestly honoured to walk alongside you in contributing there. It's one of the core purposes that we exist for, is to make sure that our tamariki are loved and cherished and raised with nurturing care. Aha ko ngā piki me ngā heke of the lives of their parents and their whānau. So, I acknowledge you and your team hugely for the mahi that you do. One of the questions I wanted to ask was, how have you engaged with Brainwave? I know that you've had different interactions with our team, and so it'd be just useful to understand what has looked like from your end.
It has essentially been a relationship, well, for myself, because I've only been here 4 years, so it's been 4 years that I've been introduced to Brainwave and the awesome mahi that your team does. And it has been essentially around delivering workshops for in two separate cases. One is for our whānau who participate in our courses, and then the other one more recently has been for staff in terms of their training, their learning, expanding that, because obviously what you offer there is so critical to our mahi in terms of learning the impacts of harm on the brain and what that does to our whānau, what it looks like for children. And we've had it in different environments. So the first one, my first experience of Brainwave was having looking through the Pākehā lens, and that was with Norma, essentially, used to come in and do her program around brain development and the impacts that children experiencing, seeing, feeling, hearing, conflict, violence, how that impacts on their brain development, and therefore their behaviour as well in spaces. So she was able to help us at least, I think, 3 times a year. She may come into different courses, because we saw the value in just for our whānau to understand the just how, we talk about tapu of our head and that, and there had been whānau who have unknowingly, I guess, the old shaking of the baby. That sort of, we've been building awareness to our whānau around not doing that, around practices where they walk away from children when they're crying, and or when their behaviour is, I guess, elevating their adult. So we do use that information to find other ways for helping our parents to manage their stress, their anger, so they're not harming the child. And why? So being able to explain that, to be able to so there was resources like being able to have a life-size kind of brain, what do you call it, model, I think, and being able to touch it, feel it, so very interactive, very, what's that word? When you're able to see and feel things, it puts another context. So we're not just sitting there lecturing people, and neither are your staff. So they're actually giving us really good information that our whānau can use, see, hear, feel. A really great way to help in their learning, our learning, then for their understanding of why they need to be very careful around their children. And therefore it kind of helps us to be able to put in new tools and information to help parents change their parenting styles, I guess. And a lot of our parents have actually never had good role models in place either, so that's made things little more challenging if they've never had anyone there to mentor
Aye,
good parenting.
aye,
Um,
absolutely.
So, yeah, so
Most of us
again,
draw from the kite that we have available,
tika,
don't we,
tika,
to
yeah,
draw upon when we need it. And
yes,
it's a question of filling that kite with a range of strategies and a range
I,
of tools and a range of people you
mhm.
can reach out to.
Absolutely, and that's what we need for our whānau, is that range of tools and practices that are safe, that work as
Yeah.
well. So we're not
Oh,
giving them things that don't work or that we haven't ever used ourselves as parents, because we will use those
oh,
so that we can say when we go into our whānau, say, actually we've done this ourselves,
yeah.
so we know that it works. So it backs up your mātauranga and ours at the same
Aye,
time. So
aye,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Speaking of mātauranga, like you gave an example of Norma initially working with you, and that was our program that is through a Western science lens.
aye,
Um, and while this isn't so much about the programs itself, can I assume that because you mentioned that specifically, that you've also engaged with our wānanga, He Hikoe Mahara, and
aye,
our
aye,
Mātauranga Māori
yes.
programs as well? Aye.
So that brought another level of mātauranga into the space, because we are also engaged, probably 90% of our clients are Māori and Pacifica.
Aye.
So being able to relate again in practices that are either familiar to them somewhere along in their lifetime, something that they connect to as well,
Mm,
something that they may remember back of their nannies or their parawa, who they may have seen them in terms of how they used to awhi manaki
mm,
our babies, using again the emphasis of taonga,
aye.
and what that looks like, and replanting that whakaaro back in our whānau. Is like, if we start with engaging with our whānau, our tamariki, and always having that first in mind, that they are
Mm,
taonga, therefore
aye.
they must be treated differently. We
Yeah.
love them differently, and that's why we are here to show you what that looks like.
Mm,
So bringing in your kaimahi, your experts into our space reinforces again just how critical our practices are for whānau, that they relate, that they work, that
aye.
we're reclaiming all of that. It's just
Aye.
beautiful. I
Yeah.
see with my wahine in spaces, the eyes lighting up because they
Mm,
recognize, oh yeah, I remember.
aye.
Or, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, now I know my nanny used to say that. It's always connecting. There's always something in that space. Or even if it hasn't been a familiar thing, then there's something in the kupu and the language and the way that it's presented, that then they can connect again and say, oh, that resonates with me and my
Aye.
heart, my whakaaro, that is safe, that I can
Aye.
connect to that.
Yeah.
So having, again, we're privileged to being able to have seen the Western and walk along, and we haven't dropped or anything, but they walk together
Aye.
in parallel, and it's a beautiful thing that we can
Aye.
offer to our whānau and say, here's some choice for you.
Mm, mm,
And
aye.
you take from both what resonates well with you and your whānau. Yeah.
Aye. Pono marika iho. That's exactly the point, is fill the kite with things that people can draw from as they need to, and
Aye.
the things that touch their hearts, that they feel a real connection to,
Mm,
and
mm,
information that really made a difference. So,
aye.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for describing that, Ehua.
Mm,
Te Pareraukawa, I just have one more question, and that's we come in to your space and we work with your people either through
mhm.
wānanga and or workshops,
Aye.
and then we leave, and while we collect feedback on the day about how things landed, what could have been better, what could have been different, and that's all valuable, and we totally take it on board and reflect on it and look at what we could do differently. We're not there to see any ongoing impact in people's lives. And while, perhaps it's important to understand that not all the impact can be attributed to us, certainly. My pātai to you is, what differences or what things have you noticed that people do or understand or act on differently after we've worked with you and contributed?
What we've done is we weave your knowledge, your experiences, your teachings into ours, so they balance, and then it helps us to tell a story of around safety, of why we, if we do this, there's going to be either a negative or a positive outcome. And we're all about not blaming, we're all about building the resilience, building connection, rebuilding, all of that. So it's just sometimes when we take just the simplest, because it's a very complex thing to learn. As a holy hika, I have to take some of the knowledge that's in there and then bring it down so that our whānau understand it. And so actually that is one of the good things, is being able to put it in frameworks that our whānau can understand, because otherwise it can be very complex. But when the light goes on, and I can see in the room when we get the oh, or the oh wow, those moments are right there straight away. And then we know that they're learning, that they're engaging in the mātauranga, because it's right there. They touch it, feel it, see it, and we say, put it in practice, come back to us, or call us when you after you've put this in place, and tell us how it has impacted. Tell us what's happened to your child. Tell us what's happened to your dynamic in terms of how you communicate now with your child or children. So we repeatedly ask them to come back to us and say, how did that work for you? Was there something we could do differently? Or was there something, did we miss something? And what we could have learned from your staff, from your experts in the mahi. But as I say, because it resonates, and because if we teach it well, they will pick it up. And we have to keep it simple, so they don't miss anything about it. And of course, they don't want to do hard. So we don't do hard for them either, because we need to ensure, again, like you, we have to have the outcomes. So we don't want to make it so that it's so untouchable or they'll just switch off. And those signals come in loud and clear, usually, and it's an ongoing thing for us. So with our kaimahi, we regularly write reports back to Oranga Tamariki about the impact of knowledge that has been new to whānau. And we have to give them examples as well of how that has impacted whānau. Well, we've seen reduced anger. We've seen more healthy, happy touching. We've heard different language in the whare that is more positive, more aroha in the space, because they really liked the change. The change has happened sometimes really quickly. So that's important, especially for our whānau who have lived with harm for so long, that we sometimes need to have quick results. And by quick, I mean, maybe not always instantly, but it may take a couple of weeks. But luckily in one of our programs, Mana Whānau, because our kaimahi are in the home with whānau every day, they're also reinforcing the learnings from your staff. So that's why the second component of having specific training with our staff also reinforces that what you're teaching and what we are learning works. And it's just so valuable for our spaces that it makes our job easier to work with our whānau.
Ai,
Yeah.
kia ora. Well, those are beautiful examples. I mean, that's it. That's our, we're so conscious that because we do just reach groups, you know, a particular group of kaiwhiwhi once or maybe twice, but generally once, that that's why we work with organisations that are working with them on a more ongoing basis, so that they're well supported, and it's not in most instances, certainly with our most vulnerable communities anyway, and whānau. So those are beautiful examples, Iho.
Because we're always looking at the long term. It can't be short term because, just need that. And so we're grateful for that. But also because your staff have also offered extra time as well, so that we can be sure that we're embedding the right practice, the right knowledge. So to be able to have that on top of is also something that we're honoured, that we are able to share space with your staff as well. So it's a beautiful thing.
Te Pareraukawa, tēnā koe, he mahi nunui kia koe, who I really, really appreciate you sharing those examples with us, and just, you know, sharing your story and the story of the whānau that you work with. He mahi nunui kia koe, o te rā ki tō, ki o hō mahi, he mahi whakahirahira tēnā iho. Kia ora.
Tēnā koe. Kia ora rā iho. Ngā mihi nui.